Today, we are talking about what is going on with fewer and fewer people entering the accounting profession. Like, what is the deal with that? And probably the big question is, what are we going to do about it? Like, any way to reverse this trend, any way to fix this? Because, man, as firm owners, we need people. We need people. So we'll be discussing that today on Drink While You Think, the happy hour conversation between a couple of guys building their firms in really, really weird ways. I'm your co-host, Kenji, along with my trusty partner, Matthew. Matthew, who is our sponsor for today's episode?
Today's episode of Drink While You Think is sponsored by VerifyiQ. VerifyiQ just launched Sales IQ, a tool to enable your sales team to properly quote all of your engagements. Right now, Sales IQ is in beta, but if you're a VerifyiQ customer, you get a sneak peek at Sales IQ. VerifyiQ for all your practice management needs.
Like VerifyiQ. Love it. These guys are great over there. I like them.
Yeah. I like me too.
You're okay.
What are you drinking, dude?
Yeah, what are you drinking? I'll go first. Say what I'm drinking. This is Big Trout Brewing. I'm drinking their North Fork Nut Brown 5%er. It's got the date. You know when it's got a label on there and like they've had to handwrite on it? Like that is legit right there. This is this is canned less than a month ago. Fresh beer. We got to like this. This is out of Winter Park, Colorado, brought to us from one of our favorite people in the world, Lisa Gilreath, our COO at Acuity, the person who keeps everything running at Acuity. And she just got back from spending a whole month living out there in the Rocky Mountains.
You gotta love remote work, working and living where you want to work, right?
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, I can't wait to have some of this. I'll pour it here while I'm pouring. Matthew, tell us what you got.
I've got, courtesy of our friend Randy from Trimerit, Randy Crabtree, the Fat Pugs Oatmeal Stout. And out of honor, Randy, I don't do this for Kenji. So this is a nice little pour to see the beautiful differences between the kind of beer that you like and I like, Kenji. So
Randy and I had this last time we were on without you, so we can kind of compare.
Yours is dark.
It is dark. Yeah, it's nut brown.
Okay. Well,
Cheers, dude.
Oh, it's good.
Cheers.
Pretty sure my rating is going to be higher than the rating you gave this one, Brian, but that's all right.
It's possible. It's possible. Interesting. Okay. All right. Nice tall one you poured there, Matthew.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to need it, man. We got a big crisis problem to try to solve here.
Or so everybody says on the interwebs. Yeah. I mean, how is this like, this is crazy. So
it really is problematic. I mean, the Wall Street Journal had an article about it recently. It's being covered not just in our industry, but when it makes the Wall Street Journal, either something really good happened or something really bad happened when they're in the Wall Street Journal. This is a bad one. This is a problematic issue we've got here with fewer and fewer students and people entering the profession. There's a slower rate of new people in the profession, then there's a higher rate of people leaving the profession. And so, yeah, I don't know. What are your assessments on why you think this has changed over because you and I have now been in the profession for how long?
Decade. I'm a decade. I'm 10 years this year, and you're how long? 20 years?
In the profession.
Oh, how long have I been in the profession?
Yeah. We've both been around 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're longer.
Barely.
You're so much older than me. But I mean, so I saw that, like, I actually realized this was going to be a problem in 08 and 09. From a pipeline perspective, I was at Ernst in 08, and the downturn hit, and I can't remember, our region reduced hiring by 100 people in 08 at the last downturn.
Yeah.
And it stayed down. And then it, like, at the, when I went over to a smaller firm, but still big, still mid-tier, even in Atlanta, we had dropped our hiring by 10 people. So you're like, if you just say in each market, that was just two of the firms. Well, I mean, EY's big, right? So say in every major market, like every major region, the 5 regions, you took 500 people out of each big five, which is the pipeline for it. Those people would be 15-year people right now, right? Which is where we're having a huge gap.
Yeah.
So I think part of the crazy part of the problem is it's the pipeline takes so long for the kind of people want to hire.
Right.
Like people don't want to, outside of Big Four, don't want to take people and then bring them all the way up a lot of times. I think a lot of us get to hire people out of just 5 years in, 10 years in, something like that, kind of cherry pick after other people have trained them.
Right.
So if we're going to change something, we have to change that mentality a bit and think about, how, are we going to be the entry place for people into those markets? And if we're not the entry place, then we're going to have to think about alternative career path switchers, and how to bring them up through the thing. But that was my first,
Interesting.
I knew in 08 and 09 and 10, when we didn't up our hiring, we were kicking the can on a problem on a short-term blip in the economy.
Yeah.
It was weird, dude.
I've got a little bit of a theory too. And that's that I think if you go back a few decades and generations and think about the types of people that went into accounting, accounting is it's pretty analytical. It's, I do think people have natural inclinations toward types of professions and types of work or studies you're interested in. And if you're kind of math oriented, or analytical oriented, I think accounting was one of the, I think you could probably put accounting, math, like economics, to some extent, engineering are kind of in those similar kind of buckets, if you will.
Right.
And I wonder about in the last couple decades, if things like, computer science, right now, that's a great place for people, very process oriented, analytical people. I think there's more coming out now. People have data science degrees. There's it seems like there's a larger wealth of the number of types of professions you could go into if you were kind of analytically oriented. That was kind of your things, man. I like numbers. I like that. And it feels like there's more opportunity. So there's more choice. And accountants, so there's more choice, but I don't know that accounting, because it's been around for so long, it's one of the older professions. It just doesn't seem very fresh and modern, maybe exciting, right? It's kind of like, it hasn't modernized as well. It doesn't sound as cool or interesting as where someone may go, well, I want analytical finance, or I want computer science or a data science or something now. I wonder if students just have more choice and there's just fewer people going in. So I think there's a little bit of there's more options out there. And I think reputationally, accounting, I mean, I don't know if accounting was ever cool. Just let's be fair about that, right?
Right.
But I don't know that it certainly doesn't seem cool now. So I'm curious about that. That's a little bit of a thesis I have, that students have more selection and choice. But
yeah, I think there's a couple core problems to address, right? There's in accounting, especially in professional, in CPA firms in particular, there is this long path mentality in a economy where 2 years is the average, kind of job tenure. And it's you take the lesser pay now because the long run, the financial is there. And that kind of flops right now. So that's a core problem.
That was
right?
that I think you just described the best description of when you think about the value traditionally in accounting firms is exactly that. It was a wait and grind, and it's all back-ended, right? Historically, it's really heavily back-ended where the value or the comp comes in, like the reward side comes in, right? Really back-ended.
Yeah. So I got a solution that I haven't heard people talk about.
Well, and I'll just say real quick before you get solution, also with that, if you got this I can be financially rewarded, but it's way on the back end when I make partner. And in fact, I'm going to have to be kind of a more of a a senior partner, I'm gonna have to be kind of retiring to kind of really get value, versus you're watching people. And this happened to me when I was in public. You're watching people go out and work for startups and get equity, and that stuff kicks immediately. You're going, oh my gosh, like that, you're getting that value creation so much earlier. But anyway, go with, yeah, let's get to solutions, because I want people to think about things to.
So here's a solution I think people can think about. So if you like, let's just assume right now we can't change the pipeline problem, right? The people coming into the profession. So then we have to say the only way to fix that problem, or one of the problems we have to address, is how do you retain people in the profession longer? Right?
Okay.
Like if you don't have people leaving, right, you don't have to replace as many, right? So let's
Leaky
just talk
bucket
about
issue, right?
yeah,
People say.
the leaky bucket issue we call, like, for people. Usually we talk about from a client retention perspective, but you have an employee retention perspective. The biggest problem with most CPA firms' models, I think, is that they're up and out, right? They're up and out. Like, why? Like, why are we doing that, right? Why can't you can't Peter principle people, you can't promote them past their thing. Like, why can't we create these, what is it called in Radical Candor, the rock stars and the superstars?
Yeah, superstars.
So why can't we acknowledge that there's two different kinds of folks? And sometimes there'll be folks that'll be great at a level, and then just keep them there.
Yeah.
And then not be a stigma, right? Like this type A silliness that we all have to go all the way through, all the way to partner. Like, some people don't want.
Yeah.
And you're not giving them a choice to park at manager or senior manager. I mean, there's the principal director thing sometimes, but that's more of a, like a, I don't know, that doesn't seem to be a great, like, there's a stigma to that people have done a crappy job, like, showing that as an actual career path that's meaningful to people, right?
That I could not agree with you more. Like, that's the only expectation I was ever taught in public, was it's up or out. In fact, I was, wouldn't surprise you, I was a better like staff person in like lower level than I was as I progressed in public accounting. It got more technical and more cutthroat and more aggressive. And I'm just not really that. Like, I'm team oriented and sure, tell me what you want to do. I mean, everybody loved me as a staff person. Like, I think as I moved my way up, they're like, he's so-so, his technical abilities fair. And I don't know that I would have wanted to stay there, but naturally I was probably better suited in public accounting to not be that up top. So we were never taught that. I mean, if you think about that in terms of acuity, how many, right? So we've got let's call it our 3 levels under accounting services: CFO, controller, bookkeeping. Of the hundreds of people we've had, how many do you think have probably moved between those levels?
4.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think.
I'd take that as an over under. I don't know which way I'd go on that.
Oh no, I can name them.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I'd take that bet. I think you're.
That's
it's that just low.
That's the 10 years I've been here, and we've had, 300 people in that team in that time, probably 250.
And we're not trying to intentionally keep people where they're at. I think people are coming in and saying, hey, I'm comfortable in this. Now, people have grown into different roles, but not the traditional stepping stone that you think of accountants. Got to be up. I either have to be a partner or I have to be a CFO, right?
Right.
That's interesting.
Right. For sure. So I think people really need to think on that within their organization. If they have an up or out culture, like read Radical Candor, because it's really helpful in thinking about these two types of people. Just for that section, and there's a thing that says like you have to honor people who are excellent at each level, and then people that are kind of rising through the levels. I
forget which one is which, but I mean, the quick summary of it, because they should probably have names that are a little bit more differentiated and kind of candidly. But you've got one team member who is the kind of more traditional mode of like, they're just aggressive and hungry, want to grow. They want to be absolutely playing that game of moving up the ladder. Okay, what's the next role? What's the position beyond me? Whereas the other one you mentioned is more of I am really good at my current role. Like those are your subject matter experts. Like, oh, I'm so happy being an SME on this particular thing. I'm okay. I don't necessarily want to manage people, but I'm okay training some folks up or using my expertise to help others or clients. But they're not like, don't give me more responsibilities. Like, don't make me move up. Whereas there's others who are like, it's always got to be up around. So I think you're right. That's a great way to think about within your firm of who those people are, because that was not present in public by any means.
Yeah. And like the other, I don't know that this helps the AI CPA at all. Like my second solution is like if kids coming out of college in the US don't want to fill those entry level roles, which lead to those other roles, then we've got to open ourselves up globally and go build training systems for people that are part of the global world that have those abilities to be able, and then we've got to create the same mentorship programs for them that we would have for the US folks, to build them up. Because there's enough people.
You know
in
what's
the world.
cool about? Yeah, I agree. You know what's cool about that? I had a conversation this week with someone from the AICPA who was talking about some plans to open up the CPA in other countries, right? To allow people who are actually working here in the US to obtain a CPA. Now, we'll maybe talk in a minute about the CPA exam itself and the CPA designation, whether that helps. I think we all have a hot take on that. But at least the AICPA is saying, you know what, we do see other people globally coming to serve the US market. How do we think about some of our standards, some of our credentials applying beyond just students here who attend universities in the United States? So I thought that's at least, I was happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think the big, when people hear that, like, I want them to make sure they understand, like, once you start working with your staff in other countries, you'll quickly realize that they still need the same career development and technical training support that you had previously done in the US. I think a lot of people think of outsourcing like it goes, you just throw the crap over the wall and then it just gets done.
Yeah.
Like you still have all the work to do as the firm owner to do the mentoring, to demonstrate the career paths and trajectory, because maybe they have fewer career paths, but not by a lot in their respective market. Like you've got to be competitive. They're especially if you're going to go with kids like out of college, like that are wanting to follow that trajectory. I mean, we're kind of weird, right? Because we had this legacy team that like was really comfortable coming into the role, whether as a bookkeeper, controller, and CFO, and had decided that was their career. And then once we went international, we were hiring younger folks out of college, out of the universities in Philippines and St. Lucia, and they have this desire. They're not necessarily in the same place in their journey. Like they haven't decided that's where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
So we've had to do the opposite, where we're having to create the career paths now through the teams for those teams, for the international folks, just based on how we hire and who we targeted through each of those things, through each of those kind of venues was different, which is kind of, I don't know that that's intuitive to people if they're not working with folks internationally very much right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, let's get the easy one out of the way. CPA exam, the rules around becoming a CPA. I mean, what the quick win? I mean, the 150 hours, the hot topic right now. Obviously,
I don't understand the fuss around. I mean, I get it. Well, that's not fair. I am the only one that keeps their CPA up between the two of us. So
that's right.
I understand the pain behind that, but if you're in a non-traditional accounting firm, like it's hard. Like I guess if you're in a CPA firm, you need to worry about the CPA exam. Like I guess my question is just like, unless you're in audit now, like, unless you're an audit partner, why do you need a CPA designation?
I
Is a
totally
big,
agree.
like you can't tackle the 150-hour rule, like as a barrier without saying why is the CPA important anymore.
I was just talking to our good friends Twyla and Michael Lee about this, because this is the stuff that us nerdy accountants do, is talk about things like this. And I was like, I would love to see in the future that become an audit designation, right? That's and have a broader, see, the AICPA break that thing out and have make the credentials, certainly make the requirements high, make them, but I mean, that is really specific to audit. It's become that way, right? It needs to adapt a bit. And I think that the 150
I mean,
hour,
for some of the, there's some tax. I
there's
mean,
some
for some,
tax too. I mean, but
yeah,
have a
there's tax and audit have
Yeah.
very specific
very specific.
purposes for that, but like, man, people misuse the term so often. Like,
They
I don't know how
really
you fix
do.
the branding behind that. Like, if, like, I get CPA is like a trusted source, but like, then the market's silly. Like, all accountants are CPAs to them.
In certain sense, it's feels like it's a problem with the own success they've had around the CPA brand. The CPA brand itself is so strong. It's like having an MD, right? Or
Yeah.
it is that significant that I understand that's difficult to say, well, are we going to dilute that really powerful brand when someone says you're a CPA? It's going to be difficult, but we have to make it more relevant. And there are just things that have gotten in the way. 150-hour rules is an easy one. I think what Minnesota is doing right now is brilliant. I know there's a lot of people fighting against that.
What's Minnesota doing? I haven't heard this.
Minnesota is right now, as we speak, has gone to the state, which, again, really dictates how each of the licensees work for the CPA. They've gone and they said, hey, those last 30 hours, we're going from 4-year to 5-year requirement. Those can be done through CPE, right? I think that's a really smart way to do it, because then you're talking about something relevant and current versus right now, those other 30 hours to get to the 5th year can be, they can be anything. It can be basket weaving, dance, whatever it might be. It's not really, it doesn't have to be relevant. And I think that's a huge obstacle to people wanting to go that 5th year. I was in a position, I was very fortunate, where came from a family that had some means where, would they have paid for my 5th year? I don't know. My parents, maybe, maybe not. I didn't have to. I didn't have to go for my 5th year, but it was coming right behind me. I wouldn't have chosen. If I knew I had to go 5 years for an accounting career, I would have done something different. So I would have not been in the profession. But that's not the bigger issue. The bigger issue to me is, dude, you and I are paying college tuition bills. It's so damn expensive right now. You and I know this. Can you imagine how many people, that is a huge issue, going from 4 to 5 years and paying for that from a college standpoint. And you've talked about before on this podcast how much more you get from a master's. It's nothing. Back in the day you did. It's not, there's no way in terms of time and dollar amount you get any benefit or any return on that for staying an extra year versus the value of being in the workplace practicing as an accountant. So that's a ridiculous one. It seems to me, again, I like what Minnesota's doing. It'd be cool if more states get behind that and go, cool, we're okay with our having a high bar, but let's do it as something different, versus just putting more money into these universities on classes that aren't even accounting classes. So that's an obstacle, I think, that most professionals, I think, are change that.
Yeah, I think one of the disappointing byproducts of this is that like master's degrees to me are so much more valuable with 5 to 10 years of work experience. Yeah. And all the 150-hour did is they moved a master's degree and diluted the master's degree by tacking a year on at the end. So yeah, I'm like you. I was actually the last class. Like if I stayed for my 5th year, I would have had to have the 150-hour requirements, but because I didn't, I could sit and get grandfathered in.
Right.
So I got grandfathered in. I can tell you what year it was.
Yeah.
If you sat for the November 93 exam, you got grandfathered,
It's something I think for firms to think about. And we're really early on in this. I don't know.
97. That was 97. November 97.
I don't know. We've done this very well, but one thing that we do, we track all of our certifications. And so now getting your CPA, I get it, is not the same type of certification as getting your QuickBooks certification, right? But we do track those. Like we keep a tally at Acuity of all of our certifications. We do think they're important. There's probably different weights to their effort and importance, but I think we're speaking to the fact that like we compensate people to get those. We measure them because we think they're important. There are ways to gain knowledge, in the profession that aren't the traditional paths, right? And I think that someone coming into it, I think giving your team and staff like accolades and rewards and encouraging and supporting continued learning is really, really important, right? It's really important. It just doesn't have to be one flavor of the CPA. And I think that would, if more people realized they could come into accounting and go, this is actually a profession that beyond most has kind of a lifelong learning tracks. Like if you were to go to AICPA Engage or any other conference, there's all kinds of tracks and paths you can take, right? And so you can kind of a little bit choose your own adventure. I don't know that you see that necessarily when you're a student or when you're in there. I mean, that's one of the things that is a little bit weird about AICPA Engage, but actually is cool. I think when I think about it is the breadth of all the things that are being discussed, whether it's wealth management, taxation, small biz, firm management, all kinds of things that are being addressed there, assurance, whatever it might be. There's a really broad stretch. And I don't think you and I see it. Every other firm owner we know sees this. The demand for accounting services is so high. It's crazy high. I mean, it's only going to get more so. So there's a great place for people to come and work in it. But there's some marketing and branding that needs to be changed, a few hurdles that need to be kind of reassessed a bit.
Who does the EA certification? That's not AICPA, right?
The IRS. That's an IRS.
And then CMA is something totally different.
Well, and here's a problem with that. You think about the EA certification. First of all, it's called EA, an enrolled agent, which is it's just a horrible name.
It sounds like the IRS came up with it.
Exactly. Who would come up with something brilliant like that? Of course, the IRS, right? EA is a great designation. It's got terrible branding, terrible marketing around it. Like who? So there's at least an attempt.
And CMA, same way. CMA is kind of like very old school marketing.
Were trying to
manufacturing.
I was encouraging people to get their CMA. I barely even hear about it anymore. Like it's just
how many widget manufacturers are there out there? I mean, that's who you think of when you think of CMA. CMA hasn't turned to the service economy, right?
Exactly.
Like what's going to be the CAS designation? We should make one up. Like we should be like create some not-for-profit for CAS and go out and make a CAS designation and come up with a cool designation and save the industry that way.
Exactly. Right? Do you go out and get that and say, just kind of like you've seen like Google and others have said, you know what? We'll go and create our own certifications, right? You can come to a Google University online for free and take classes and learn coding and developments and things like that. And do you go out there to some of the bigger players in our space? That would be the Intuits, the Zeros, the Bill.coms, and say, hey, let's go find some ways to if we don't think that the university system is going to serve this, then maybe there's some ways to say, hey, let's take students who are doing it differently or non-traditional students who've maybe come from another place and say, how do we give you some certifications and learning? Like you and I see, because we're in the tech space, lots of these coding academies spin up, right? To where could you do something like that and say, hey, we're going to spend 2 months and we're going to give you accelerated, help you learn how to do some accounting CAS skills so you could come in there and help run the accounting function for businesses. That'd be awesome. I mean, that'd be
when I think about our bookkeeping and accounting practice, I think the QBO certification has already replaced the CPA for what we look for.
So would you say if I saw a candidate come through, or maybe I'll put this to you, if you saw a candidate come through, one had CPA and another came in and said no CPA, maybe even no accounting degree, but had QBO certified, Zero certified, Bill.com, Expensify certified, all these certifications in our space.
Yeah, they're going in our bookkeeping practice for sure.
I think I'm like, that's a CAS team member right there.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we got 37 CPAs, but most of them are our controller team. So in that practice, it might be different, right? When we start getting into some of the other stuff. So
we currently hold over 300 certifications right now as a firm, right?
But like, it's like when I look at QBO versus CPA, like we have 70 plus QBO certifications and 35, 37 CPAs. We're somewhere in that range usually.
Yeah.
So we have double the number of QBA certs than we do CPAs in our org.
Right.
So that's crazy.
It is. And that shows, I mean, those are the current tools of our profession of being a CAS practice.
Yeah.
And someone who's taken, that's our expectations. When you come with us and you're in that practice, you're going to get recertified. You need to know those tools, and people coming in who already highlight those. So I think there are some other paths. It would be great to see a little more partnership there. They don't have the same credibility. I mean, and maybe that's an opportunity for some of the bigger accounting tech companies to get down into the high schools, university level, and get a better penetration there, and realize that, like, yes, it's a tool we use, but also people who learn how to use these tools well can be excellent in this trade, in this profession. So,
I mean, but do we care if our profession stays US based? Like, I don't. Like, so you got to open your mind to that too. And like, how do you broaden, like, how do you think of it from a global perspective? Like it or not, like, we're all remote. Like we got to think globally, like, more frequently. Like, we just got to think about it better. Like, ASCPA better get on the ball with that too, I think, because I get it's the American Institute of Certified Public Accounts, but like, at some level, like, we're still the leaders in the US. And like, if we want to continue to be the standard, like, we need to figure out how to enable like the world in these educations. It's not like our governance is still pretty good. Like, is this pretty much the standard, right? So like,
it is. Yep.
why wouldn't we roll that out?
Well, it's the standard. Our markets tend to be the markets the rest of the world moves around.
Yeah.
Our currency, our rate of entrepreneurship and of business creation far surpasses any other country. So we're going to naturally have more and more businesses here in the US that need accountants to help manage the data within their business. And so if we don't have enough of the supply here in the US, if people want to do it, then absolutely helping empower anybody who wants to serve U.S. business, which I think that's got to be part of who we are. We have a open market, very dynamic markets here in the U.S., along with high business creation. Like, that's who the U.S. is. So we're going to need people who want to serve in that. And so opening up that certification and education globally just totally helps fill that supply demand imbalance that we're experiencing today.
Yeah, and I'm like, people shouldn't, like, so I get surprised that people think that they're surprised that there's less people coming into the profession, because we used to rely, I think, overly rely on the big four to do that, to bring people into the profession.
Right.
Well, 10 years ago, what did they do? The big four outsourced to India, AP, AR, vouching, like all those things. Kenji, what did you do your first 2 years in public accounting? Cash, AP, AR, and all the vouching.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So Big Four has taken away their US feeder training system and pushed that to India, which I'm fine with. But then that's the pipeline for us that we've got to figure out how to tap into if we're going to still rely on the Big Four to be our pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And that's what we're seeing in St. Lucia, right? Like, we're having people leave Grant, EY, like, to come, like, because we're offering career opportunities, and they're saying, no, keep vouching ARAP, but they're going to catch on soon.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, some of these people can be managers. Like, in this understanding that there's multiple career paths, like, is going to be a big important thing for the Big Four.
You know, I was listening to actually a cloud accounting podcast months ago, and I got connected with one of the guests, Arjul, who has built a great practice based in the Philippines. He's from the Philippines originally. He's here in the U.S. and he worked in Big Four here. And his experience in the Big Four has kind of helped him go back and recreate a more modern CAS firm with team members in the Philippines. And he talked about that exact experience of realizing him as a staff person, he was much less experienced than all the team members in India they were outsourcing things to. And he saw such limited opportunity for them to grow and develop. It was just a throw it over the fence mentality of like, throw it over to them, throw it over to them. And he said they were incredible. They were incredible team members. And he was like, the way he kind of put it was like, I was kind of like, they're way more experienced than me, more senior than me, but because I'm in the US, I'm treated differently than they were, and they weren't given the same opportunities. And so the way he's built his firm up, which has been really cool, is like, I understand the power of people globally working who are motivated just like we are, who will do the work, but giving them an opportunity to grow and develop in their careers is what he wanted to do, because he experienced that exact thing of like where overseas was just used as like, let's just give you the crap work and we'll let a bunch of young kids out of college manage these very seasoned people. And like, it was clearly they were not getting opportunities to grow and develop. And so he's like,
Right.
I'm going to create my new firm and change that. So it's a cool, people are seeing that. I think they're trying to address that a little bit. I'll say that, maybe the final thing there's more ideas, but like you and I have experienced this. We've talked about, I talked about it with, Scott Scarano and Nicole on their podcast of just how much in certain sense fun we have in the profession. And yes, some of us like to act up a bit more when we go to conferences and things like that. But we've always joked that like if more people saw the way that us accountants kind of hang out together, they saw our time together when we were in
The
Park
fun
City.
side.
Yeah, the fun side. Saw our time together in Park City with a bunch of business, other firm owners, other accountants. How often we speak to each other and we help each other out. Like, it is one of the most collegial, helpful, supportive professions I could ever imagine. It wasn't that way when you and I were coming through, but it's some of our best friends. It's really some of our best friends. We love to travel and go to conferences to learn more, but honestly, a lot of time to go and be with our friends. And I think that I am blown away. I had great friends. I have friends to this day who I met when I started with Arthur Anderson, wonderful people there. There's just great people in the profession. We were taught to be more competitive back in the day, but there are still great people in the profession. And I mean, that's probably the reason I get most motivated to go travel and go to conferences and learn, because I know I'm going to see great friends. And it's just
your FOMO.
I had my FOMO for sure, but you have it too. You don't have near the FOMO I do. Thank goodness. You don't either. We'd be a mess. But you think about how much you and I love going to see our friends and going to be amongst our people in our community. It's a great community that is, my side of it's maybe a little bit more the late night crew of having fun and carrying on, just because I've always been that way. But it's got something for everybody. Whether you're like, hey, I just want to go have dinner with my friends, or I want to go and connect with them over social or on text. There are, I don't know, accountants are people who you can find lots of cool communities within the profession that'll be very, very helpful to you. So I think I don't know how to expose that to younger people to see that. But if they did, I feel like if more students were to pop into like QuickBooks Connect, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I am so stoked and motivated to get in this. Randy Crabtree's talking about his small conference of like, maybe finding some ways to bring people to that, students to that, of like, just to get people to see that if there is a stigma about, hey, what a bunch of dorks, right? Nobody likes accounting, that it can actually be a lot of fun, and that fun can be whatever it means to you. So I don't know. I don't know what your take is on that. That felt like it was much more serious when we were in Big Four.
Yeah.
Changed a little bit.
It's changed a little bit. So it's kind of crazy. So I don't understand the kids today. So I'm gonna leave the kids today and recruiting part to other people. I'm gonna focus on the retention part, the international stuff. Is that terrible? I don't know.
No, it's not terrible. We all have to have things we focus on. I still, you can do that. I care. I'm with you on the retention piece too, international, but I also just think that just by exposing a little bit more of the way the profession actually works, the type of work you can do. I know for me, because I can remember me at that time, I would have been much more excited about accounting had I known the path that you and I are on and our friends are on today. Had that existed, I would have been a lot more excited. I just kind of did it. I didn't know there wasn't a different path. And I don't like having one option. I like having many options. I wish I would have seen this as an option earlier. So
Yeah. I just wanted a job. So
that's true. All right,
well,
let's rate some beers.
Let's rate some beers.
I'm going to go mine first. I've got it pulled up. I am drinking, courtesy of Lisa Gilreath, the amazing Lisa Gilreath, the North Fork Nut Brown Ale
your
from
screen's
Big
not
Trout
showing,
Brewing.
dude.
Can you see it?
No, that's all right.
It's there. It's not.
Okay. Hopefully it's being recorded on your side.
I always mess this up. I feel like it's
User error.
there we go. Maybe it's now.
Hopefully it records your screen.
Okay. I'm giving this one a 2.0.
2.0, you didn't like it?
No, it's not good. It was not and so apologies to Big Trout. This is one of those cans that they may have filled right out of the tap in there, which is kind of cool. It just is kind of flat. There's just very little flavor for something kind of that dark and cool looking. It's not supposed to be a porter or a stout, but like this should have more flavor. It's not very interesting at all.
Okay.
So Matthew, give me, what are you're drinking?
The Fat Pug Oatmeal Milk Stout.
The Fat Pug. Here it is. Sorry, the Oatmeal
Milk Stout.
Okay. Gotcha.
Lots
Tell
of
me
dead
what
air.
you're feeling on this one.
Lots of dead air, Kenji. 3.75 is my feel. Did I hit what you guys rated it?
3.75. Second time drinking this. So last week, Randy and I rated this one. Let's see if I can determine that real quick. I believe we enjoyed it.
I'm sure you enjoyed it.
I think we enjoyed it too.
It's pretty good.
Oh yeah, we gave it. We must have given it a. You said a 3.75 is what you gave it.
Yeah. Did you give it a 4?
I think we were similar on that one. We may have been 4.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have to change it if you don't need to.
No,
so, cool, man.
Good combo. Let's get more people in the industry. If people have any good ideas about what they're doing to get more folks in the space, we'd love to hear it. Like, subscribe, send us beer. The only way to sponsor Drink While You Think. Many people have offered us cash and all kinds of valuables, but the only thing valuable to us on Drink While You Think
is beer.
So send that our way. You can be on. You can dictate the topic. Send us any questions or requests you've got. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.